Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. And this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 644. Got a great guest for you, returning guest this evening, Bret Bogue. How you doing, my friend? It is nice to see you. I'm glad you could join us tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Eagle. I've been very interesting since the last time I saw you or spoke with you and been on the show. Lots have changed since then, but always being, keeping our head open, our minds open, and just trying to navigate the ever changing, which it is changing all the time, the cannabis industry. So,
Well, I'd like to take the time right off the bat to wish you a happy belated birthday. If I remember correctly, your birthday was a little earlier this month. So happy birthday to you, my friend.
yes, it was. I reached the plateau of 52, which is, seemingly it's kind of strange when as you get older, it doesn't seem so old, but when you're younger, that just seems so old. So I think age has definitely, like anyone, it should, you hope, taught me so many different ways of living and learning about myself. But I thank you for the birthday wishes.
Well, last time was definitely a fun, informative, and motivational episode. So I'm very much looking forward to catching up this round. So I've heard you've been very busy, very, very busy. As you said, the cannabis industry moves very quickly, and apparently you've either been leading or running along with it. So what's been going on, my friend?
So out here in New York, which the law passed a little bit at the beginning of 2022, and then the legislation and the actual governing body rules, regulations are still being toyed with in some aspect. They have a general idea of what they're doing, but I think has to do with zoning, planning, and some other issues currently. But so with that said, we've been out here really with a group advocating for the social equity and also other. I want to get this right. The social lounges where they could actually partake in smoking and buying and purchasing cannabis. So it's been, very interesting to see that evolve. And then in the meantime, we opened up a school, nykannaschool.org, and that's specifically working with the social equity as well as veterans and the other groups that are been really affected over the years because of the prohibition in cannabis. So with the passing of the law has allowed for a 3-plant flowering garden and a 3-plant vegetative garden, total of 6 plants, or if you will, for a total of a household, 6 flowering and 6 veg for a total of 12 plants per household. It's also very I think it's one of the most relaxed and one of the most, I think it's one of the best laws when it comes to personal use. That's up to 5 pounds of cannabis at your house, upwards of 3 ounces on person at any one given time. You could be smoking on the street. Anywhere you can smoke a cigarette on the street, you can smoke cannabis. And as well, you can have up to 28 grams of concentrate on you at any given time. That's a beautiful, beautiful life. I mean, 3 ounces of cannabis and 28 grams of cannabis and 5 pounds of keepsake at home. You can't go wrong. That's a great state to live in. So I'm really stoked and happy to be able to teach people really about that and about how to maximize a personal garden and work on uh, their home garden. So that's kind of what we're doing.
That's a pretty fruitful effort, in my opinion, for multiple reasons. I talk all the time that I think that the cultivation side of cannabis is most definitely, I think, the most therapeutical part of cannabis. You know, cannabis itself is a great value of a medicine, but I think the cultivation side of it has just as big of an impact as the plant itself, to be honest with you, as far as a medicine.
Yes, I think farming, just like it maybe any other hobby, like or profession that allows you to get out, not only outside, but working with the dirt, the plant itself, another living um, organism, another living, thriving, breathing, really part of our atmosphere, our world. I think it's really important for people to get involved. You know, this last pandemic that we just had, a lot of people, I think, well, a lot of things happen. I think a lot of people realize about being able to work at home, being able to do other uh, alternative jobs that allow you to be more focused on yourself, family, and friends. And then finally, really, it seems people got to a point that they started seeing their time and their energy and how they could use it in a more productive way that helps or benefits them, their lifestyle. Not them, I was going to say themselves, but it's more their lifestyle. So I think that's something that we're going to see even as things start to, instead of having an individual doing working in a restaurant, i.e. back cooking. I think in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see mostly robots and things of that nature. It's going to get interesting. And that's what I mean. It's just that the changing of the guard, changing of time, changing of the way things are going to happen. So it should be really interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I really believe a lot of that. Not that the pandemic itself didn't have a lot of weight, but I think they put even more to it to put some of these things into place. To be honest with you, to get some of the people out of the picture, make things a little bit more automated. I think the plan was necessarily to scare everybody with germs, so they didn't want to touch currency or limit their interaction with people and depend more on like robots as far as like being served and stuff like that. Being more of a sanitary option, I think, was part of the push.
Yeah. Well, and I also think too, kind of going back to the whole gardening, and it really put an emphasis on or how important it was. Look at, you couldn't even go get food or vegetables or fruits or things of that nature. Where now, if you knew how to farm and you knew what was going on, although you wouldn't be able to leave your house, you'd be able to come from your balcony, possibly your window. However, it would be, there's still a availability through sunlight, through air, and through mating conditions that one would be able to grow a little indoor garden. And that is something that is quintessential to life. If you have fruits and vegetables, guess what? You live. But people have decided in so many different ways that it's easy to walk down to the store or easy to go to the grocery store or even online to order it. Well, we saw, and I'll kind of land that little plane there, is like we saw that what happened. We saw exactly by that mindset, people were panicking. People were having to find alternative ways to eat, share. And those are the things that are, I don't know if you remember, I don't know how old you are, Eagle, but when I was going to school, they had what was called home ec. Home ec taught you how to sew, laundry, a little bit of a basic home economics when it comes to, some math, paying some bills type of thing. Also about cooking. And it was just really important. I mean, even as a we get these stereotypes, guys, women, whatever. I think we broke past it now, but it used to be that, women was the one that was cooking or cleaning or doing something of that nature. And guys, in so many different ways, that was your opportunity to learn how to be self-sufficient. And most of the time, if you're not living with someone else, how to be able to take care of yourself. And it's a wonderful thing. I think, especially as you get older, people, women are like, wow, you know how to cook, you know how to clean, you know how to take it. Well, yeah, I know how to take care of myself. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Of course I know how to do that. Sometimes people get a little shakazula. So it's a difference in preference, I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure. At that point during all that, man, I was a little worried there when they actually held back seeds and stuff. You couldn't even buy, that kind of stuff there for a minute through all that. And I was really worried at that point, but we snapped out of things. Humanity snapped out of, I think, pretty well out of that pandemic. I was a little worried, but as we're coming on the downturn, I think we did overall pretty well, as in a nutshell, as a humanity.
It's interesting. I know other countries are having another outbreaks, and they're having major shutdowns. So I don't necessarily say that will happen again here. I do see other things happening, but again, we've made it through worse times. I do think there's probably a lot that has to do with the amount of people and other variances and variables that will play a factor in the years to come, right? So it's a never changing story, or ever changing, I should say.
Is. So, I owe you a little bit of a nod here. When I spoke to you the other day, I had mentioned to you that Joe Petri, the king of Nepal, had mentioned you in one of his recent interviews, kind of giving you some credit for bringing in the spreading of true genetics in the cannabis industry, giving, proper dues. And well, one of the things he's been talking a lot about was light schedule. Us using too much light and it being a ruse for all this time. But you brought that up almost a year and a half ago. You were talking about that on the show, that we were running our lights too long. So what is it? You're obviously still on the boat about that. And well, one of the things he's saying is unless we adopt some type of a lighting schedule changed, a lot of these growers trying to get into the industry just won't make it. You know what I mean? They're overpaying for power, and it's such a big overhead. They should be smarter and using a more photoperiodic lighting schedule.
I think it's really important, and I think if people take a look at the impact that a 1,000 watt has on the environment, a 1,000 watt has the footprint and the emissions of basically a car going around the whole world. It puts out a lot of emissions, and I think if we are saying, here we are, this plant healing, helping, whatever, almost like in the essence of doing a mining for Bitcoins or other mining, you're using so much power, you're actually harming more than you are helping when it comes to the environment, the fuel, the source, and the overall impact that we put on the electrical systems. I heard here in the next year or two, California will have to go into pure blackouts. They'll go into blackouts because they don't have enough power. So when we start to look at things of that nature, we're talking about You know, we're supposedly, you know, the greatest civilization of all time, you know, and I think a lot of it is this is kind of, you know, a little heavy, but yet kind of right in the vein. Need to kind of take back and look at how can you reuse alternative, and that goes right in with the lights. You know, these new LED lights are great. Uh, um, Not all of them are great, but there are some good LED lights. There's also alternative ways to hydrogen fuel, hydrogen power, hydro dams, as well as solars, wind power, and a multitude of other variable sources. But I think that we could, and we could lead the way because we use so much. We are consumers of so much power, especially within indoor grows, that we could be kind of the go-to, the looked at companies. And that's kind of very interesting to think that all these years we've been kind of looked at as the taboo company, as the, you know, cannabis now is said, you know, it's cool, it's the in thing to get into cannabis now, and you know these big companies that are joining forces, the big MSOs. You know, not all of them are bad. I don't think that they're the big evil, but also at the same time, there needs to be a room so other companies can grow. I think the biggest thing is when you look at, and that's the cost, the lights and everything, as we're talking about, even that when you make it, the playing field is so difficult and the finances to engage in business are so above the average business holder, the ones that really, frankly, were individuals that started the industry that have been, I hate to say it in a lot of ways, they've been pushed out because of the high end cost. These MSOs, for an example, here in New York, which I understand, again, to a certain point, business is business, but you know, 25, 30, 40 million dollars for a license, just for the license, that seems a little unfair, you know, to the average person. It's like they should have allowed the average person to spend maybe a million, 2 million bucks, which I think is quite reasonable for 5 of those licenses, and then let the other five battle it out for 50, 100 million. They can afford it. They have the money, but allow at least someone the availability. So that's the one thing about cost, especially electricity, as we started the conversation about what and the importance of finding a light, and also when opening up a business, especially if it's a growing business or you're a large extraction where you're going to be using a lot of wattage and power. You really want to, before you even purchase that building, look at the county, city, state, country. What are they selling that power to you at? Because it might just cost you right out of doing business before you even open your business, but you never even took a look to find out. Because in some cases, you're talking 20 cents difference in a kilowatt of power. That could make or break a mom and pop company right off the bat. How are you trimming your cannabis? When you get big enough and you're doing a massive grows, it's just almost impossible to do a hand trim to be able to get the product out fast enough to be able to now have a turnaround, because you're paying so much labor and cost. So there's a multitude of factors.
That's definitely for sure. I've never really thought about, you know, looking as far as ahead of like how you're going to trim and stuff like that. I think a lot of us get caught up in our ways and think it will just scale up as we do, but sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes it is more time consuming and cost consuming than we initially thought.
You know, I think a lot of us can relate. 4 lighter, 6 lighter, 10 lighter, 20 lighter. You know, your garage kind of starter kit. Okay, great. Now, how are you going to ramp that up to where you might have 50, 60, 70, 100 rooms? Each room has 50 lights in it. And then through those 50 lights, you'd have a mother, veg, and clone room. How will you rotate those plants in fast enough to be able to have either a daily, a weekly, or bi-weekly crop? You have enough rooms to be able to do that and rotate it in. At the same time, you want to be able to have those fully automated onto racks and rolling systems that allow from interchanging and interlocking from one room to the other. All set it and forget it, so it's in drips and systems and it's going. Then at the end, you just roll the tray out, actually cut the cannabis off immediately onto rollers and racks that onto another whole rolling system. While then the bed rolls out, tilts out and dumps out, and then you go back again. You never really physically have to ever load or do anything because everything's automated. And then while you're doing that, the cannabis is done and dried in a perfect room with temperature, humidity, and fans and things of that nature in a proper time, and then cured. Once it's cured properly, you have the availability to do it fresh and or frozen. Depends on what you're making. And then from there, using those machines, the machines that could actually not only trim it, make the keef, and then when you're done, take out the material, and now you can make water hash in the exact same cleaning machine that you have. Thus being able to trim 450 pounds a day with 2 people, make 45 pounds of keef, and at the same time being able to, once you're done with that, then turn in and make 40 pounds of water hash. But with 2 people in one day. So that's when you start to look at how you're going to be able to ramp up and trim. So if you're in a market, let's say as New York, that cannabis can go probably for 4,000, let's say a pound. That's one at 450. That's 2. That's 6. That's $1,620,000 a day that it can trim. It also can make almost $500,000 in keef and $500,000 in rosin. So at the end of the day, you're trimming and producing material with 2 people. Once you're done, that has about a $2.3 million value a day with 2 people.
That's pretty impressive. Is that the resonator machine that you're speaking of?
Yeah, the original resonator.
Sounds like a pretty incredible machine, all in all.
Yeah, be 2 people working 24 hours a day, 3 shifts, and away you go.
Now, last time we spoke, you kind of was saying there, once you move up, at some point you do lose a little bit of that craft, and you were saying that came somewhere between the 100 and the 500 light grow there. You still think that's true, or has your opinion changed in the last year and a half?
Well, I think what I was referring to, and I've always thought this, is that I have 100,000 square foot grow room. Okay, great. None of the rooms will be bigger than 1,000 square foot. And that's how I do it. And once you do that, you can create, if you did it on that level, you probably have to realize that out of that 100,000 square foot for zoning, planning, drying, curing, break rooms, bathrooms, and other ancillary to that 100,000 square foot, you're probably going to end up no more than 60,000 square foot of actually canopy space. The rest will be all the other ancillaries that have to be done on a legal grow. Because you have to have all this, city planning and zoning and blah, 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 exit plan, site plan. I'm sure you've seen it or heard other friends or people talk about. It's quite an in-depth RFP, and sometimes it could be 2,000 or 3,000 pages of material. A lot of it's jargon, a lot of it's rules, regulations, but it has to be quoted and put into your plan in order for it to be accepted. So
So what made you, other than choose New York instead of Oklahoma? When we last time we talked, both were on the horizon there. What made you choose New York? I mean, the last time we spoke, you were still kind of in limbo in New Orleans, if I remember right. You were still kind of figuring out where you were gonna head.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me personally, Oklahoma, as much as it was the place for about a year or two, it really got overran by just so many different groups of people and different companies. New York, much more kind of in a systematic, controlled system that will allow for literally this market. There is no really other market like this market when it comes to the sheer volume and the amount of people that show up here. The overall citizen of New York and their thirst for cannabis is just like really, California, a Colorado, maybe a Miami, a Las Vegas. It's insane. And the market for the next minimum 5 years, once it's fully operating, it might take 2 years for it to be fully operating. I think it's going to be the largest market in the world, the most attractive, the most money being made, the most advancement. And then my game is a 3 to 5 year run, and put all the pieces together and dump it to one of the MSOs. When I say dump it, really leaving our brand, as far as being able to monetize our brand through licensing once we sell everything. That's our goal. I see that really being the biggest advantage here, being in New York, kind of more than any other place, which is, I think, an obvious. The sheer volume of people and advertising. I just don't see any other place. Of course, when other states, Colorado, Washington, when they became legal and things happened, that was a great opportunity. And of course, the world was like woo woo and cool. But let's be honest, there's about 3, 4 really just tour destinations in Colorado. And if you like to go around with a buffalo and ride a bike or do those things, and you should go to Colorado then. Grab your skis and you have a great time. But you want to get down a party like Rick James and have the greatest time of your life? You're going to show up to New York, yo. Not going to no hillbilly backwards ass Colorado. I'm sorry. That's just, and I love country and I love that shit, but that's just dumb. It's old. It's bye-bye. Get out of here. Who the hell's going to waste your time in Colorado? Nobody. And the only time that you are going to go there is maybe to go to the winter time, and you're going to go to the ski resorts, or you're going to go the summer and you're going to go for a biking, whatever. But other than that, sorry. And it's where the action's at. It's the pulse of our country. New York, LA, Miami, Las Vegas. That's the pulse of our country. Again, those Western states, they led the way when it came to the legalization. And thank you. You set the bar, you put it open, but now you're has-beens. You're done. You're like nothing. Bye-bye. You're a nobody. It's real talk. Anyone in the game knows Colorado's just about a nobody state now. Washington, like a nobody state. Oregon, a nobody state. California, a nobody state. Sorry, nobody's anymore. And the reason that they did is that they all got too cocky. They thought they were someone. At the end of the day, they became a nobody. And now their businesses are failing. 90% of the businesses are failing in those 4 states. 90%. but they were the ones, and they were the cocky ones, and they wanted to run around like they were somebody. Now they're nobodies. That's what happens when you get too cocky. And then the reality of the world, because you ain't the champ, you can't be the champ for 24/7. And you got to remember to be humble while you're the champ. Because if not, someone's going to beat your ass, and then you're going to look stupid. So it's learning to be respectful. It's learning to be real of the real expectations of real business. For so long and so much, cannabis was taboo for the real world. Cannabis was taboo for a suit and tie. Cannabis was because I could go to jail. Where the other guys that would say, well, I don't care if I go to jail. Those are the people that are leading the way. And it wasn't until finally, the laws changed, and then all of a sudden it became the chic, the cool thing to do. I always give people all the time. Remember, a lot of times you go to college, all of a sudden you got one of your buddies that's in college. You're pounding the pavement, getting your school books, and everything's great. And you puff a little bit. You might take a little bit of ecstasy. You might do a little blow. You might even drink. But great. But you're on a straight and narrow to get your degree, to get your job, to get the married, the white picket fence, live that dream. Okay, great. But all along, Susie or Jimmy over there that was selling, and it was being a rock star, and ended up becoming like Rick James was selling and being a happy guy and making money and doing the fame and the game. And you're always kind of a little jealous, always a little bummed out. And now all of a sudden, because the wife was on you too, but pounding out, you can't do it. Don't do it, Jimmy. Don't do it. You're gonna ruin our house, Jimmy. And so the next thing you know, now it's legal, and now all of a sudden you get to be cool. But what you did is for all those years you didn't have to hide necessarily because you had a regular job. And if you did good in your regular job, you made enough money. And now look what you get to do. You get to come into the cannabis industry that your buddy Jimmy and Billy that was being a rock star, but you don't really know fully the whole game. You don't fully understand, if you will. I was explaining to some executives, it's like, I really believe when you come into the CEO of a cannabis company, and if you've never grown, never extracted, never sold any pounds, never did any interstate trafficking or any country trafficking, how if when the shit hits the fan, are you going to jump off from the top of your perch and come down and get your hands dirty? You're not. So if you look at it that from the standpoint, you're actually the worst hire that your company could have done from the get-go. They failed the first day they hired the CEO. Whoa. And that's 95 to 99% of the whole cannabis industry are failures. And they're failures because you put, which now everyone understand this, you can put the college guy there. But if you don't put Rick James next to the college guy, for all those that don't know, I'm Rick James. And if you don't put Rick James next to the college grad, and then you team them together, the same will be if you take a grower right here, and then you take the grower, instead of disrespecting them and not paying them, which 99% of you do, you disrespect us. Then you go hire some horticulture ding ding. Now the horticulture ding ding is great. He can tell you about the fertilizer mixes, the pHs, the ppms, the ZPBs, and the DDDs. Great. Come on and grow some doobies with me, bro. You have no clue. You'd have your finger up your nose picking nuggets for days. And then you expect those people to go in and grow? No, a good company would go get the horticulturist or the botanist and put them with someone like me. And the same thing would be for the extraction. You'd go get a compound scientist. They would come in. He knows all the fractionals, defractionals, and then you put them with me, Breaking Bad. And me, and then the guy, we make the yummy. But you got to learn to understand, because that teaches all of your executives and as well the other people how they both have to mesh together. That's the failure of the industry today. You got these guys that want to have all these degrees and tell you that they know everything. You know a number. You know how to take the widget and the gidget and put it into the box, calculate it out, and ship it out. You might know how to market it and put it in a box. Great. Do you know how to make the product that goes in the box? No, that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. And that's the failure of the cannabis industry. You got a bunch of college grads that want to be like Jimmy and Sue because that's cool now, but they were never cool. You didn't break the laws. You didn't, you didn't do what you had to do. So how do we fix that? I really believe that you start to go and you train, you pull these CEOs and everything, and you bring them into the dirt and ground right at their companies. They have a continuing education program throughout their company, and it allows for the people that are in the dirt and the ground to be able to elevate them into the CEOs of the company. And it evaluates all people. So with the commonality of what we're doing, you touched on it earlier, it's about farming, it's about community, and it's about growth. And if you don't know how to do them and work together, your company will never be successful. And to end is that you can look at all these publicly traded companies. A majority, I would say, I like to use, numbers, these aren't factual, but I think they're very close. And that's statistically that about 80% of the cannabis companies are losing money, They're losing money because, again, you put a college graduate into a Breaking Bad position. You need Breaking Bad with the college grad. If you don't have that, you're never going to win. I don't care that you can go to the True Leaf, the Crescos, you can go to all these companies. They want to play real with the public. They want to pay real with money. Open up your books. You're all losing money. You're losing hundreds, if not billions of dollars a year. But supposedly you're the biggest what? Failure? You're the failure because you don't listen to the fucking Breaking Bad people. We made this game and we still are making it today. We're going to show you how to do it in the way that it was supposed to be done from the beginning. Most of them like to steal ideas. Advanced Nutrients looks like they just stole one of my ideas. But those are what they do. Companies like that, they need to steal. They need people like us. Because without us, they're nobodies. They want to front that they are, but they're fronting on other people's ideas. They're fronting on other people's business models. And it's easy when you have a lot of money to do that. You can make up stories. I mean, the greatest publications of making stories. I mean, in some ways it's factual. iTimes Magazine, you pay enough money, you're going to get a story. Skunk Magazine, pay enough money, you're going to get a story. Cannabis Culture, pay enough money, you're going to get a story. It's not true journalism. It's plagiarism and fakeness because there's no accountability for the stories that you're writing. Who went and did the research to prove this story? You just wrote the story. If you're not going to go factually prove it or print something on your website or print something somewhere and you want to go out because of you have a dislike or you have something of someone, these are the things that the cannabis industry needs to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's got a long ways to kind of police itself. And at the end, people that are smart enough, I would say this, that you could probably read, again, a number, online, 60-70% of what you're reading is, someone's one side of a story that really has not, again, been gone through. There's no proof to the story. It's just a story. And I just wish sometimes people would, understand that there's a much more than just reading a story and then that's what it is. It's factual. Well, it's factual to that person. It's factual to that article, but is it really factual? And the chances of it are it's probably not. So I just went on a rant right there about good factual information and reporting. I think it's really important. So easy to mislead the public,
I completely agree. You know, that's one of the things that cannabis has been pushed underground for so long. It's nice that people like yourself, Mr. Petrie, that people that were there that were helped push this industry to where it is now are able to actually come out and on the record set a lot of this stuff straight, you know, because I think we've been misled in a lot of different ways, uh, where things have came from, you know, and like you said, some stories have been told and not kind of necessarily been looked into or rebutted. You know what I mean? The other side of the coin, basically. Uh, so it's nice to hear, you know, firsthand from a lot of these folks, so we can, you know, start to piece together, you know, some of the real factual background of the cannabis industry.
I think like anything, it's just facts checking, digging deep if it's really important to you and you really want to know. You know, one person can tell you the story. Again, that's their version. I don't know if you ever heard that before. A story can be told, and there could be 100 people in the room. And the crazy part about it is, but it's just our human nature. You might get 100 versions of that story, but one person told the group of 100 people. The 100 people told almost a similar, but yet a different version. That's the way we do it. We have a way of being able to talk to people. We have a way of communicating to people. All of us do. And when we hear a story, depending on how you are, or how you talk, or how you express yourself, that then could be a whole nother. Like I could get really excited and tell a story, and then like, oh my God, it was unbelievable. There was a warfare, and I thought people were out. It was, you should have seen it. It was just crazy. All because I got excited, was just telling a story and being animated. But that other person now took it that there was a whole war going on. You know, it's amazing how we as people, we interpret one's facial expressions, hand expressions, or just overall expression of us speaking. I tend to watch a lot of people, even if I'm maybe not even in their conversation, I could be, you know, over here, but I'm watching people because it seems to me within their hands and their actions and their facial expressions, you really could, I think I do personally, I seem to be able to, you know, make someone up understanding, you know, what's going on, or if I needed to, or I was thinking that I want to, I get a vibe from people from those type of movements or that type of communication. And it's unique because I think it says a lot about people, and especially the individual, when they're doing said movements, facial, hands, talking, gestures. Um, it just, I don't know, maybe that might be a little bit too much, but it definitely is very unique when dealing or meeting with people to try to figure out how to approach them. You know, I think everyone, sometimes you get into a certain group or a certain way. Um, Maybe it's a little uncomfortable suit and tie type of environment, let's say, and you're coming more from a just casual, you coming into there feeling how these people might accept or talk to you. So all learning process, right? All learning process.
It is. It is always a learning process. Body language does say a lot about people. I think a lot of times people discredit that their actions, like it doesn't matter, but there is a people's actions do say a lot about them as they're speaking, uh, for sure.
Right.
So another thing, it's nice to see that again, you walk it like you talk it. You know, the last time you were here, you were saying the same kind of thing there, that if you wanted to be successful in this industry, you had to basically get in, get the fuck out. That was your advice. And it sounds like you're following your own plan there to, you know, kind of get something going and kind of get out. Basically, you were again one of the, I don't, myself included, I never really thought about it until we had spoke, and you kind of spoke of, you know, hey, things might be good, might be great now, but there is federal legalization still looming above us that may reset us all. You know what I mean? We may be all cool now, but we may all have to reset when federal legalization comes through. Is that something that you're still kind of a little worried about, or do you think they're going to come on board and play fair and kind of adopt state by state policies, or, you know, it'll be an easier transition overall?
I think in the coming years, we will see it federally legal. I also believe that's what I talk about, the entrance and the exit point, and a strategy for that, because I think that the big companies, all of them, from the Nabiscos to the Budweisers to the Coors to the Coca-Cola to the Pepsis to the however, whatever company you want to talk about that seems to run or is the brands, those companies will be the ones that will be at the forefront. They will be servicing the majority of our nations and our worlds. And once that happens, why not, like any, now just take, step away from the cannabis industry, look at any business. And then when that business takes off and then it needs to, and then it goes global, well, then it gets bought out for billions of dollars. And that's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. Is literally just saying, okay, and again, you mentioned something that's so true. We're forging a new time and rules when it comes to dealing with cannabis and the legalization. Not only as we speak now federally, but of course each state. As we go forward, this will be regulated and taxed and controlled just like alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. It will be every agency in the country. It will be ran from that same throne and that same perch. And once that goes into effect, cannabis will be, imagine, I mean, even now it's so cheap, but imagine, going and getting an ounce for, $25, $50, something like that, or you'll be rolling it, or pre-rolls will be maybe a little bit more expensive because of the labor, whatever it is to roll, whatever. The cannabis will be relatively cheap. And then the high end and the high price will be when we go to the pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, or even edibles or drinks, where we know that, you can break them down to a tenth of a milligram, and a tenth of a milligram, that makes 100 out of 1 gram, 100 out of $5. Damn, you just for 1 gram is $500. So all of a sudden now you've really made a value into the cannabis business. So that's what I see happening in the future.
I wish the medical aspect of cannabis would have made it coast to coast before the recreational aspect of cannabis hits, to be honest with you. I think that's going to rob a lot of folks of what we started here with, the power of the cultivation side of things. I think once it goes to that route, we're all going to kind of be begging to grow, or, I don't think a lot of us at that point will give it up. I think we'll be back to being outlaws, but it will definitely be something on their agenda to take away.
I like to think of it as the availability of not only government, but the powers that are be to do reverse psychology on societies. Again, it's, your listeners know, but you start off as this subject, this matter, this medicine, and that's exactly what it was. And it was used in a multitude of different layers, but up until that point, 30s, was a medicine. It was prescribed through doctors, medicines. Some of the leading pharmaceutical companies had patents. So the kings and queens, through their doctors, used it. we know. So it's not like it wasn't. And then all of a sudden, of course, then it's made illegal. A lot like when you could look at how alcohol and prohibition ended. Once it ended, there became then this fine line of individuals that were already doing it illegally that then started their legal companies. Go figure. That's what we're doing here in cannabis with a lot of us. Where I go and what I'm saying is that they have an availability to almost come at us at a multitude of levels. I think the reality of it is that, hey, you guys, a lot of you guys, what it would be is this, we know where we are. So, hey, you hippies, you kind of stoner, you weed smoking guys, you want your thing for medicine. Okay, cool. We'll go ahead and let you have it for medicine. So, but once the medicine happened and that all went into play, once that hit, it was like, wait a minute, you open the door. Once you open the door, now you open the door to moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, and then your loved ones. And that was then the hey, you got to let them have that. Then I remember in the 1996, 98, 99, 2000, them said, watch, this was just their way to break the door open. We broke the door open. Now we have recreational cannabis. So as we're breaking the door open, you got everyone every time. Now listen to this one. Isn't that what the people wanted? Well, hey, now not so many people are getting arrested. Okay. Oh, well, hey, now all of a sudden you can go and you can go down the store, you can get your cannabis, great. But hey, guess what? Well, we were all saying, hey, and it was all cool and everything was great. Look what the pharmaceutical company did. Look at what the treatment programs did. Look at what this did. Well, what they did is they switched over from what the medicines that we have been, the pharmaceutical, the man-made drugs, now just switching back over to what was already used already, what was already known to cure and help and fix. Well, what they've done is they've been able to, in a financial way, basically manipulate the general public. And they did it, not only through propaganda, through news, through a multitude of other layers. Then they made laws, Jim Crow law and things of that nature, and other laws in our country that prohibited even the research and development of the plant. I just think that sometimes we, as a general public, we forget our history. We forget what had already happened, and then we are shocked as to what is happening when it already happened. It already was in front of you. It's like, well, we got to do some more research on cannabis. What research did you want to do? Because in the 1944, we knew it helped epilepsies and seizures. Prior to any, in the 1930s, up until the 1937, it was prescribed, it was put in every doctor's bag. Lilly, Pfizer, American, Johnson & Johnson all had patents on tinctures, elixirs. They mixed it with heroin. They mixed it with opium. They mixed it with, heroin, opium. They mixed it with cocoa, cocaine, and THC. So again, it's like we're supposed to, like, all of a sudden we've cracked a new code. No, we've had the code since the 1800s when it comes to with O'Shaughnessy's and other written publications that have talked about cannabis since the 1860s, the 1870s, and its medical benefits, and they called it the Indian hemp. But anyways, there's just so much information that sometimes I think gets just pushed under the rug. Like, all of a sudden we have found so much new information. It's mind-boggling. What, that you pulled your head out of your ass and that you actually did some research to know that it's been there for almost 200 years? But okay, that's great. Thank you so much. It's kind of funny to me. I mean, I think it's almost laughable at a certain point.
It is somewhat laughable. I think at that point, they're just discovering, the relationship, how it works in the body. They're not necessarily rediscovering it as a medicine. You know what I mean? Yeah. So on that kind of same note, we talk about medical cannabis all the times and certain strains being able to help certain ailments. One of my worries has always been kind of once it goes recreational, it'll be weaned down to a few strains. But then I listen to people like yourself that say, hey, it's only fucking 4 strains anyway, basically, that it all stems from. You know what I mean? So is there such a thing as individual strains? How do you feel about the breeding of cannabis? And will it slim down with legalization? Do you think the Budweisers and that will no longer try to breed out? They'll just concentrate on a few.
I think that there's always going to be like a taste, a palate, like fine wine when it comes to individuals, medically, recreational. So I do think that the continuing breeding of genetics will always happen. But I also believe, as you said, that really the core of the genetics, it's 5 genetics that really seem to be the staple of what's going on today. I've heard the rumblings of a lot of different people wanting to bring out a lot of the older genetics and starting to bring back a lot of the land races and things of that nature. So that could be really kind of a opening a Pandora's box, if you will, just the unknown, but yet so many good, just gems ready to be redeveloped and re-seen. And finally, I think that in the coming years, you're going to see a lot of growing. I think in the lab, I think when it comes to like other alternative ways of growing instead of the actual plant, like yeast or other alternative ways to be able to create the actual THC itself. So I think you're going to see that coming into play. And then finally, I think it's going to play a big part, and it's going to be almost like a mixologist, an individual that's going to be able to come in and say, well, you have said disease, and out of that said disease, you need, out of the endocannabinoids, you need X amount of CBN, X amount of CBG, X amount of THCV, X amount of THC, and such, and isolate a treatment program for you specifically. And that's what I think we're coming to. And that's why I think we've seen this almost separation of saying, hey, wait a minute, these clubs, these social clubs, as much as yes, they are in one aspect giving a medicine, they don't have the credentials to do that. So let's make a separation of the two. And now you can capital, and then we're back to now that capitalization of finances. And now you've taken what 1 gram would cost $2, $3, $5, $10 now costs $500. I mean, what does that do? I think it makes 1 pound like worth $250,000.
So I just kind of I giggle a little bit, and I agree with you though. Cannabis will come to a custom blend, as you're kind of speaking of, when they break it down and see what each compound does, and they'll be able to kind of interview you. Oh, what's all your ailments? We'll be able to dial this in. I giggle just because if the medical system would do that for you pretty much now, we've eliminated a lot of need for medicine, period. If you went to your doctor right now and they went, all right, let's take a look at you. You went in and said, oh, I'm not feeling well. And they went, okay, let's take a look at you. What do you have in your system? Let's check your blood. Oh, you're deficient on these vitamins. You need a little bit of this. Here's my vitamin concoction for you. You know what I mean? Or eat these foods, come back in a week, and then if things aren't all right, we'll try something out at that point. I think we wouldn't need a lot of the medicines that we, you know what I mean? If we took that same cannabis outlook and just took it medically, I think we'd avoid a lot of problems in general,
Yep.
to be honest with you.
I agree.
So I guess how is as far as genetics go, and somebody that's kept and passed and kept things straight for a very long time with cannabis, how do you see yourself with genetics in moving forth in the biz? I see, obviously you have some other irons in the fire, but is genetics always going to be something that you're moving forward with?
Yes, it will be. And I think that's the one thing that we have been the most consistent at over the years is staying the growing, staying with the genetics. And once we have established our business here in New York, we're hoping, as I said, to eventually break off into a licensing company where Apothecary just does licensing now with the genetics. And this will be in the next 3 to 5 years, where now the brand itself, Apothecary, and the genetics are just placed now into said establishment, like a Coca-Cola or Pepsi at AM PM or 7-Eleven. That's how we like to be able to be that same way. And just have our genetics sold through a licensing fee. That's our big goal. But I do, I do believe the genetics are playing more and more significant, especially as far as taste, smell, terpenes, and things of that nature. People are really developing a nose, developing a palate, a taste of what they like, a smell. I think we can all agree that cannabis has so many factors of why you like it, especially a personal relationship. Smell, taste, high, not high. Again, multiple factors. So I think genetics will always be our number one mainstay.
That's awesome. One thing that you kind of mentioned earlier was like producing THC from weeds and stuff like that. Uh, is I think that's part of the you kind of mentioned to where we will be able to break it down into individual uh, elements there, but I don't think that that's the whole thing. To be honest with you, I think medically, I think we're losing a lot of what cannabis has to offer as we THC just becomes the main concern. To be honest with you, I think that's
I think,
where.
yep. Uh-huh. That's, I think I've seen that in the last few years is one of the big, is it a point of people really like hitting home to be like, hey, it's not all about the THC. A lot of the times it's more about the entourage and the multitude of other endocannabinoids that are in the actual terpenes, CBN, CBGs, CBCs, THCVs, TCAs, and again, so many different variables to those combinations. And I think each, in a very unique way, has something to benefit or something to offer each person because we have a different makeup. Some are similar, of course, but we are our individual in that kind of a thread. We stand alone. And I think cannabis has a way to be able to match that relationship and help you, especially if done right, not abusing it, right? So
I think you're absolutely right on it having an individual relationship. And I think, as a lot of people talk about, I think that does come through mainly through terps. You know, I'm a firm believer in, plant medicine, homeopathic medicine, stuff like that. And as I learn more and more, a native approach to it, you know what I mean, as like a using plants as more like a spirit medicine. I think that's what the relationship we have with cannabis, as we, look it over and smell jars and become more and more aware of different terp profiles. I think as you snip them jars, you make that relationship with it. You know what I mean? It you've made that handshake. Yes, this is the one, basically. And it calls out to you, this is the one I'm going to work for you. And I think that's the relationships kind of built through terps, not necessarily THC numbers that they're forced to choose by. Again, I think that's where we'll be lacking again in the recreational market, when people are trying to go for medical reasons. That's what they're being pushed towards constantly, is THC to numbers, and they're not even able most times to be able to smell their cannabis. I mean, they're just, again, presented with a bunch of numbers that are just confusing to them. You know what I mean? We've lost that handshake.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
So, do you have anything new, or what are you having to offer on your website as far as genetics go?
In the coming months, we'll be doing a lot of breeding here in New York. But we'll probably get started here probably by October, I think. Then our first genetics they'll be F1s, and they will come out probably by the new year of 2023. And we'll have probably 2 new genetics that we'll be putting out, doing mostly testing. But I think we're going to have some nice gems. I definitely do. And then we're really excited. We have so many. We're working with a group that has upwards of 2,000 genetics under their catalog, and a lot of old school land races and things of that nature. So we're really excited about kind of cracking on the egg, if you will.
2000 genetics. Wow, that's quite the library there. Uh, did you ever think you'd be there from, where you started, the few strains that you started with back in the day? Did you think that we'd be coming towards a day where you'd be working with 2000 different cultivars?
I can't say that I ever thought that even be possible. I think it's going to be really unique. I think to be able to select that, you could take 5 lifetimes to go through that stuff. So, but it will be unique. Like I told some of the people, I'm like, I'd just love to do a huge sea of green at one time, do all 2,000. And, categorize them as sativas, hybrids, and indicas. But to have that many to smoke at one time, wow. That's the way to do it. Huh.
That would be nice to have a jar collection of 2,000 different strains to work your way through. And we both know it wouldn't be a 2,000. That would just be the end game. It would take you many, many jars to work it down to the
Right.
that 2,000. Holy cow.
Yeah, that'd be
You
insane,
can't
right?
be stored dream. Yeah.
Insane.
So do you have any advice for anybody out there that's still willing to make some claim into the cannabis community industry? I hate the industry word because I know it's two different things.
You know, I would definitely, when you are making your business plan or you're an idea, know first your demographic, which is, kind of an old cliche. But more than that, I think I may even said it last time, it's that I think we're to a point that people understand basic growing or extraction or even cooking for that matter. But you may, and they may want to really look at themselves as much as, well, mom and pops are, I'm financing this, I'm doing that, great. But when you start out and you think that you need to do everything and you are building a product like everyone else, and there's so much product, and that's where we're at right now. And people can't sell their product because they didn't line up the sales before they finish the product. And the product itself is not going to sell itself. It doesn't work that way. Just like anything else, you're going to have to get out there and hustle and do everything. So my biggest word of advice is to have everything gone. Have your individual, if it's one little bit or however many little bit, that's what it needs to be. So, Bret.
What about to cannabis in general? As somebody that's taken this plan a very long ways, how do you feel about the way it is, the overall overlook of cannabis today, and where would any advice for how we take it in the future?
I think we just need to really again, be very appreciative of the people before us. Look at some of the things that they did, how we got here, and then not forget, because none of us really are really were the for the time being. You could be the king keeper. What does that mean? You were bestowed other genetics, you got other genetics, you were lucky enough to breed some genetics, however it was, but you really didn't create really much of anything. What you did was is you are the keeper, and then now you are the distributor of with the blessings. That's what we are. We're as individuals that are growing or individuals that are helping with genetics, and we're putting them out there, is to remember the people who were before us, to give thanks, to let people know it's okay. It's not. It's You don't have to be ashamed that there were other people before us that laid a lot of the track work, that did a lot of the work. It's okay to let everyone know in their name and that support. So that's something that I think is one of the number one things to keep our our business, our economy, our how we do things, can really affect the overall business. So anyways, I think that's really important. Really, really important.
You were incredibly humbled last time we spoke, but you seem even more so humbled now. Can I ask what's changed in the last since we spoke?
You know, it is it's so it's so easy to make statements or make fun of or be disrespectful to people. It's almost easier than it is to actually take the time to look at someone, uplift them, be more motivational, if you will, in your statements. So for me, I think I'm just getting to a point in life that think about kind of what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, who I'm saying it to, the volume that I'm saying it in sometimes doesn't have to be a disrespectful or yelled or belittling other people. So I'm trying to find ways that I can use my voice or my platform to try to find the positive. And sometimes it's difficult. And, I'm not trying to say I've, Gandhi or something over here, because that's not true either. But it's really finding that ability to understand that if it's really out of my control, it's really out of my wheelhouse, it's out of my zone. How much do I really commit to that, as far as anger, hostility, or even a care into that situation? I think a lot of people can relate to this. All of a sudden, you could be on Instagram, you could be on Facebook, you could be on TV, and then an article or a news report comes out, and it's very just so much drama, but you get sucked into it, and then all of a sudden you make a comment, right? Or you get an opinion, or you get it instant. Could be bad, could be wrong, whatever. But my point is that it's, again, a human nature, and that's something that I've been trying to work on, is that it doesn't matter. You could be driving down the street, look at someone, and then you have an opinion about it. Or they could, or you're watching TV, and then that person made one word, they said the I the wrong way, and now they're the motherfucker. But for what? Why? Because they said I that way. But we don't realize how we project and how we instantly make this impression about this other person. Well, what you just did, without you even realizing, you just judged that person. So I had to stop to say, hey, wait a minute. You could do that if you want, but you'll constantly be battling yourself internally. Because what you've done is you've set up, for some reason, am I better? Am I bigger? Do I do it better? Do I do it? Oh, they do it wrong? Well, look how stupid they are. Look at how dumb they are. Look at what they do. So you're self-justifying it in yourself, and you're doing internally, and by that internally, you're judging and you're passing judgment on other people. And I think every last human being is guilty of it hundreds of times a day. And we don't take the time to stop and analyze ourselves from the inability, the lack of self-confidence, the inability to make you accountable for your own actions, internal actions. Again, most of them are internal, because if they were external, shit, people would probably be killing people it'd be just, people would be dying everywhere. So, and we don't do that. So that's what I've been finding. I've been finding a way to be able to release my inner ego, my inner insecurities, and try to find a way to uplift the other person, to make them feel better. To end is that it's so much better to have people around you that are happy and want to see. That might be it, as well as that surrounding yourself with people that have that same type of mentality, that they're not there necessarily to try to take from you, but they're there to gain, and you are as well, from each other. So I just focus a lot on that. Again, a few weeks ago, I got in a little shouting match on Facebook with some people from Skunk Magazine. And in so many ways, I would have been nice to have been able to just be more appropriate with the way that I addressed the situation. And again, just like everyone else, I'm human, and I let my emotions override my, behind. And at the end of the day, I had to look at it as how I was speaking to a female. And then, realizing that, well, wow, Bret, you've got 3 daughters and, significant others in your life that are women. And, why would you feel it was okay to talk to someone that way? And then it's, again, somehow thinking that I'm bigger or better, or I've done this or I haven't done whatever it is. And then you're realizing that there's no need to do that. I didn't accomplish anything. Really, if anything, I made maybe other women look at me like, damn, that guy's got an anger problem. And so hindsight is always really easy to kind of what if I've, or what if I didn't, or what if I should have, or whatever. But the reality of it is taking responsibility for it, and how about just don't do it. So that's kind of my model, man. I've been just really trying to work with that.
And I see that, to be honest with you, and that's why I mentioned it, because the last time we spoke, anything that was counterpoint, what I mean, that you spoke of, you always stopped and said something nice about, whoever you were speaking of, to keep it on a positive level, and to wish the best for them. And again, even if you had something to say, you still wish them the best. And it seemed like even you've came 100, a mile away from the last gentleman I talked to, as far as being more humble. You can see it. You can see you've came a long way, my friend. And it's very respectable. My hat's off to you. I hope I can have that outlook, to be honest with you, very much sometime soon. Life teaches us new moments every day, and I greatly respect your outlook.
It really does. And it's like, listen, it's a work in progress every single day. I think you and anyone, we go through our daily routines, we go through our lives, ups and downs. It really is depending on how one takes those circumstances, good or bad, and then applies them to their lives without affecting not only one's life, but the people around you. Because those people are the ones that are going to be with you and living with you. And if you're in a position, a mindset that is not only negative, but is constantly looking for this failure and never looking at yourself as someone that can succeed or be with groups of people that succeed, it's very hard to find peace with that. And so that's something, again, that constantly telling yourself that you are the beginning and end. What it does is it starts with you and ends with you. Your choice is that, hey, well, I don't like it. Well, if you don't like it, well, then when are you going to change it so that you like it? You're setting the tone already by your choice and your actions. You put that into action. I don't like it. So what don't you like about it? I don't like the sound. You get away from the sound. You are now the problem. But instead of you addressing the problem, you continue to make the problem worse. So that from the beginning, you had the choice. You chose to be the problem. But you wouldn't have looked at it that way. You would have just continued to be angry and not fix your problem. But yet, how simple is that? But how difficult you walk. Just sit around and watch people. Watch them. They'll fucking mind humping the side of their head, yo. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? But yet, you and me are those same people and have done the exact same thing. But it was about how many more times do I want to keep on banging my head on that concrete when it was me that was doing it the whole time. All what I had to do was finally admit that I was cheating myself or I wasn't fully accepting responsibility, and to move forward to gain that knowledge is to look in the mirror and tell me that I was the one that failed. See, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible for most of us to look in the mirror and go, bro, you fucked up. You fucked up. So what are you going to do about it? Well, Susie, because Susie stepped in my way, I had to knock her over. Well, no, you were probably in a rush and you were going so fast, you didn't have time to slow down. So really, Susie, yes, was at the wrong place at the wrong time, but you aren't accepting any of the responsibility of how Susie went down. You're only blaming Susie because Susie was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Did you ever stop to wonder why you were going so fast, and that if you were going the regular speed, you would have never fucked up Susie? But it's all Susie's fault, right? So it's those type of things that we don't really fully grasp, that we have to take that responsibility. And again, it's not like I've got the winning answer and do this all the time, because I don't. That'd be a lie. But what I do try to do is to make attempts, do the best I can, that when I see myself go too far, or I'm going down a road of a place of almost misery, of being disrespectful, dishonorable, or somehow making myself bigger when I'm just the same as everyone else, right? I just might do it in such a way that you have you inspire, or I inspire you, or that uplifts you. Great. I'm no different than anyone else. I just maybe have found a better way that, or better way for me, but a better way that you might go, fuck, I like that. I'm gonna try that. Okay. Doesn't mean it's the right answer though, right? You're gonna have to go through your journey, and I'm gonna go through mine. And that's the thing that I've really realized. It starts and ends with you taking accountability. I think that's the number one thing that's wrong with society today. We make too many excuses. Oh, well, they grew up this way, or oh, this happened, or oh, this did. Well, great. So did he. So did Boozy and Susie, and they didn't go fucking light anyone up. It was, I hate to think about it, but it's so much. We have parents, we have everything, we have children, loved ones, aunts, uncles, whatever. The next thing you know, they have some problems. And then we as family members, we don't want to realize that those problems are getting as such that they become dangerous to society and themselves. But because we love them so much, and because no, it couldn't be our relative, it couldn't be our mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever. It would never do that. And the next thing you know, and I only bring this up because it's kind of ties in, but it's something, it has to do with guns. I always tell people all the time, I'm like, I understand that there needs to be some type of control, and I understand that there needs to be rules and regulations. We're in a society that needs those. But are we in a society that says to ourselves, the gun crawled right out of the closet or the cupboard, it unlocked itself, and then it went out and it killed people? Right? Well, yeah. People want to ban guns. So you want to ban a gun that took an individual, let's be real now, took an individual to go in a closet, box, locks, whatever, take it out, pull out the thing, possibly put bullets in it, then put it in their pocket or their bag or whatever, then go to wherever the scene of the crime is, pull it out. Oh, wait, let's get it right. And then pull the trigger. Well, in what part of that equation did the gun do it? It didn't. A person did it. So when will the accountability happen? So where does that start? I'm sorry, but I'd go back to the mom and dad's house first. Those are the first people that now are going to jail. Oh, what? Accountability. You already knew, unfortunately, God bestowed upon you a crack-a-doodle. Motherfuckers crack-a-doodle. And you didn't want to put crack-a-doodle where crack-a-doodle belongs, in crack-a-doodle house. So since you didn't want to do that because, oh, well, that's my loved one, well, motherfucker, your loved one just fucking killed 40 people, motherfucker. And you don't think those people are accountable for that? I think those are the main characters of it. You bred that. You allowed that person to go further into their and then you had guns somewhere around somewhere. So you provided them the weapons, in essence. And then the dude went out and the chick went out and blasted motherfucking hole in people's heads. I don't know why shit happens. Is everyone on drugs? Is our country on drugs? Are they on drugs? What do you mean you don't know what happened? You got fucking people that aren't taking responsibility, not only for their own families, but then all of a sudden now people are killing other families and you don't want to go. I mean, it'd be the first thing. If your kid did that, you should go up and you'd say, hey, I want you to kill me and my wife. It's the best thing I can do for you because we failed. We failed. Because no one can tell me that you didn't know the signs that your kid, your child, whoever it was already a loose cannon. That's called accountability. And there's no accountability. I'm done. But that's what I'm saying, yo. When will the motherfuckers be accountable for their bullshit? Society has to be accountable. And just think about how many mom and dads, boy, let me tell you what, you motherfuckers, I got lots of kids. I got 7 grandkids. Motherfuckers, you'll be responsible for those little motherfuckers now. Because if I had to come kill you because you weren't fucking being a good motherfucker to go, hey, God gave me a whack-a-doodle. We need to put the whack-a-doodle down. We got to do something with whack-a-doodle. Because whack-a-doodle's going to fucking kill someone. And before fucking whack-a-doodle kills someone, and fuck, then a motherfucker like Bret Bogue come over and want to pop, kill me. Fuck, we better do something with whack-a-doodle. That's what I'd say. But anyways, I don't want to go digress from my Zen motion there, but I'm just saying there's got to be a place, man. Accountability.
I get it. I do. I really do. People need to more and more reflect on their actions and how they're going to affect other people. I don't think people even care anymore in most cases. People tend to be in their own little bubble and not necessarily think their actions transcend so far.
There's just so many people in the world now, and it's like a ripple effect in the water. You have no idea what your cause of action and what it can do. Certain people just have a power amongst our world, right? Popularity is a true thing, and people idolize a lot of different things and facets of other human beings and things that they do. And a person like that, Michael Jackson, when he died, Prince, when he died, Muhammad Ali. If you look at some of these people that have died in the recent years that I can remember, and the impact and the mourning that it had, because people idolized these individuals, right? They idolized what they were doing. In some cases, inspirational. In some cases, of infatuation. But whatever it was, that's the human nature again of wanting something that's beyond what they are, out of their control, a lifestyle that they possibly dream of, when the reality of it is the greatest life that you have is the morning that you woke up. You only realize that at the end of your deathbed. Because now you're only wishing that you would just what? Wake up in the morning. But see, life would get caught up in the most heaviest of situations to make it then the most important thing. Within the next day, you're dead. So how important was that? Everything is in a way of life, being and meaning. It will happen regardless of what situations we may or may not do. But it truly will end up is how you deal with that situation. And life has a very interesting way of finding or defining who we are or what our life will be by the choices that you make in critical decision making times. That's the difference between a possibility of being alive or dead, or at the same time being successful or not successful. It's simply up to you. But you don't really realize that because you constantly are looking out in front of what Jimmy, Billy, or Bob is doing or did, and somehow you try to mimic that in its own kind of unique way, but yet it's almost dysfunctional for you or any one of us, because at the end of the day, it's your spaceship ride. It's not theirs. And that's what I mean by it's all defining on you. It's really important to really look at what your goals are, your expectations of what those goals are, and then write them down. Write them down, put them on paper, visualize them, and then act them out. And by doing that, you have built kind of a repetitive and a motion, and one might say as in a body motion, but this is going to be a mind motion, and it allows you to develop a more stronger, but yet defined pattern on how you can think. So I can go on forever about that, but that's just kind of my way of how I've been trying to change in this last year and a half.
I greatly respect it, and I see a lot of stuff that you're saying to be true. I was just talking a few weeks ago a lot about what you're saying there, because I'm a firm believer that if you believe in yourself and you can visualize it, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, as well as people get older and they tend to fall into the loop. They lose their dream, they lose their imagination, they lose their ability to actually see the dream. And I think that's very critical. But the part that I admitted to being wrong on that was the part of not writing it down, kind of defining my dream in the journal. I was saying that all my mentors across the books, I suggested journaling, writing down your dreams, and that was one of the where I've always lacked, and that's where I needed to pick up and start doing is start keeping a journal and making things a little bit more concrete, because I believe everything has a vibration, a rhythm, and at some point you have to start the ripple. And I think that ripple actually starts with either verbally saying it or writing it down. Another thing I found true that what you were saying is in a roundabout way, it all comes back to what you were saying all along is accountability. As you talked about these people that you admire for one reason or another, you admire them because it usually is something that you dream of, or some small way you lack, you wish you could be. Well, coming back to accountability, you could be, you know what I mean, if you wanted to put the effort in, the work, the whatever, you know what I mean, put your dreams forward, start writing it down, start visualizing it. And I find the same thing is true when you find yourself lurking on the dark side and hating, you know what I mean, all that is basically I find, in my opinion, it boils back down to you're angry at yourself because you know what I mean. You've most cases I find people hate on other people because you know they're highlighting something about them that they don't like that they haven't fixed about themselves or they know they're more capable of doing and they're not, you know what I mean. That's then it's they're projecting themselves in a wrong manner, you know what I mean. They're hating that person instead of kind of looking at themselves and going, hey, why aren't you there, why aren't you doing these things, you know, putting their accountability back on yourselves. Not that it was lucky of them or anything else, you know, put that accountability back into your book. Why aren't you doing these things? Why aren't you taking those lessons? Why aren't you writing that shit down? Why aren't you visualizing it? I'm sure they did all those things to get, you know, to where they are. You shouldn't hate on them for that reason. You should be looking back on yourself on why you aren't in that place.
I just it's and again it goes back to just you, there's no reason to hate on them. You are exactly what you said, really probably because of an internal issue about jealousy, anger, hostility about these people being successful. Um, Really, they have no bearing on what you're going to do or how you're going to do it. It's more of anything that they've got a good product, you could have a good product, great. As you said, you know, be happy for them. Find a way to, or that old saying, I'm sure you probably heard of your parents, was like, if you don't got anything good to say, don't say anything at all. And that might be the best thing that I'm learning is that I've been catching myself this last few weeks now after my little breakdown, to say, you know what? Here, oh wait, here's my opinion. Oh wait, no, oh, don't even say it at all because it's just fuel to the fire, and the fire is right now. You're just good, so be good. And just practicing and just learning to. If that statement, if that statement goes out, and by you saying to yourself, "Oh boy, are people going to like that or not?" Then you already know they're not going to like it. So don't send it. You almost have the answer. You can feel it. And then when you're writing a story, of course, from emotion or instead of facts, and you're not putting a truth behind it, it's garbage. And you don't want to be part of it. So I'm just trying to look the other way, right? If I'm not the one putting it out there and being negative, then people eventually, I think, the truth will come to the top, and they'll see that that it's just a way, like you said, of then being able to kind of reflect or bounce things off. It is what it is. So
Right on. Yeah, life has strange lessons in it. You know, at some point, I wonder why we don't figure a lot of this stuff out. I think we're meant to figure it out a little later in life for some reason. I don't know why it is, but it seems like lessons that we should have learned earlier on.
right.
Um, so I heard you say that you're a grandfather of 7. Uh, Pretty awesome stuff. How did that humble out and when did that come in your life? I'm recently, very recently, kind of joined the grandfather club there. And uh it's already kind of humbled me in a lot of ways. Just holding the grandson for the first time kind of already changed my outlook on a lot of different things. So, when was your first humbling experience of becoming a grandfather?
It was about 11 years ago. It was my oldest grandson is 11, and my youngest and she will be, it's a girl, it's a granddaughter, and she's in the oven now about 4 months. So we have about 5 more months before she'll be in the world, and then so we'll have a brand new baby. But it's been, it's like you said, it's so different than having your own child, because you don't have the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, taking care of it. So that's a huge, as a parents, that definitely that's a job. That's a job. Um, the Raising a child these days um, is very interesting. My first child was born in 1987. So I look at it, like a lot of things, like I've had, and then my last child was born in 2005. So that's almost 20 years of baby making right there. And that's a big gap. There's 19 years difference between my oldest child and my youngest. So, I guess that's just, the difference of, our families, specifically mine, very unique, because there are, I have daughters that one daughter's 35, another daughter's 32, another daughter's she'll actually be 20 in about another 3 weeks. And then a son that's 16. So it's interesting to have the dynamics in such a broad age group of kids. And then to have the grandkids, I was, man, what was I? I would have been, I think I was about 39 or 40 years old when my first grandkid was born. So I was pretty young as far as a dad. But yeah, very humbling, no doubt. The grandkids keep you on your toes for sure, because they're running all over the place. They play lots of sports, so it's just never ending. If it's not football, it's baseball. If it's not baseball, it's soccer. If it's not soccer, it's basketball. If it's not that, it's swimming, it's conditioning. It's like, oh my goodness. I wonder how my parents did it with us as kids, getting into the game practices and getting your clothes. Oh my God. It never ends. Never ends.
I actually had to have that talk with my dad there at one point. As parent to parent, it's like, I just got to thank you, because he was a single parent, and raising us both on his own. I was like, man, I got to give you some credit to everything you provided with for us, all that you did for us and shit. I don't know how you did it to these days, to this day. I don't know how the fuck you did it. Man. So I just wanted him to reiterate that, everything he did, every little lesson, everything I took for him, I appreciated, and it's things you don't necessarily appreciate until you do it on your own. You have to try to do all those things yourself.
I think all of us go through it. All of us tell our parents, like, I'll never do this. That's insane. Why would you do that? What kind of a parent are you? Oh my God. And then all of a sudden, you have your own kids, and then you're like, yo, I just did what my mom and dad just did. I said I would never do that shit. Yeah, because you don't fucking realize at the time that how fucking stupid sometimes kids are and how dumb shit that they'll do. And then as a parent, you're like, what are you doing? And then they're like, oh, what do you mean? And you're like, dude, I promise you, you're never going to be in jail or dead. I'm not sure which one, but I just hope that when you leave the house, you realize that that shenanigans right there, it don't work. It don't work out there. It don't work out there. But again, it's teaching the kids and having responsibility uh, that they know that they're going to have a consequence, right? You can't get them out of that trouble. But again, it's teaching your kid and being on top of them. I laugh all the time when my daughters and kids, my son, hey, how was today? What'd you do today at school? Who'd you talk with? What'd you talk with? Every single day, the exact same thing for 4 years straight in high school. Every day, the exact. How was it? What'd you do? How was Billy Bob? How was Susie Sue? How? Why do you? Dad, I don't understand. Why do you ask every day? Why do you care? Why do I care? I care because those people that you go to school with, that's who's forming who you're becoming. That's who you see most more than you do me. You see those people. And parents don't realize how much other kids affect and rub off on your kids. And if you're not willing to pay attention to not only who your kids' friends are, but what their habits are, you're building a little crackhead. That's what you are. And you don't even really realize it because you're not being a parent. And that's a lot, I think, what happens with a lot of the kids today in our society. They don't have parents. They don't have people that are on top of them that are like, no, you can't talk that way. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. But you can do this. There you go, right here. This is what you can do right here. Well, I want to do that. Well, you go, I don't know if you ever heard this. I used to hear it a lot. Well, yeah, you can do that. When you turn 18, let me know. You can here, I'll have your bags packed for you. And just like you guys ever seen Fred Flintstone, you'll be like Dino. Dino will be right outside. It's all good. We got you covered. And I'd be looking at my parents like, what? Like, oh, don't worry. Keep it up. We got you dialed. And it's again, what were they teaching me? They're teaching me about being accountable for my actions. And if I wanted to act like, as a nice way to put it, if I wanted to act like a donkey, well, then donkeys get to go stay outside like Dino. This is facts. But people want to, sugarcoat it. They want to make it pretty in pink. Well, then that's when you don't have accountability. And then that's eventually you have a broken water main because you never patched it. You never fixed it. You kept on allowing it to just slip by the cracks. And eventually it cracked. But that's, again, I think our society has a lot to learn. A lot. So,
I think conversations like this helps, to be honest with you. So I appreciate you fucking coming to talk with me this evening and on kind of just, some notes. At some point we've seen a lot of ugliness come in the cannabis community within like the last it's fizzled, thank goodness it started to fizzle out as fast as it came, but things kind of did get a little kind of I don't know where, I don't even know how to say it. It just, there was a bad vibe in the community at some point. I think egos, heads got a little big, and you know, I think we all just kind of, at most part, need that. We're all just cool motherfuckers, just growing a plant that we love, and all this shit that a lot of this tech, as you pointed out, a lot of the stuff that's being put forth has already been learned. It's already been done. We just need to, go with what we love, enjoy with be happy with what we're doing, and that just be the end all.
it definitely is, it's a learning process, like we've been saying this whole time. And I'm I'm just, very, I'm thankful that I still have an opportunity to grow and learn. I'm very thankful that for all of the failures and the, successes, there's been a good amount of both, that I still have a desire to want to go forward. I still have a desire to want to finish something that I started. And I really feel, for me, it is the climax, the finishing touches here. New York does seem to be, for me, that final exclamation point where I can actually, because New York is such kind of almost a virgin in the sense of this whole legalization and the laws and the companies and the overall business models here. You have a lot of people that are, frankly, they've been in the dark for many, many years, being that on one side of our country it was legal, on the west side of our country, and the east side of our country is now just coming into this legalization, at least by state level. And seeing the need for trained, skilled workers here in New York there's a lot of work. There's a lot of opportunity here. So for me, it's really a no-brainer to come here, set up shop. Not anything, trying to be extravagant, not trying to be the biggest, really trying to have the best, fully verticated in a business that is transferable and ready to be sold within 3 to 5 years, and an exit strategy, as I've indicated earlier this evening, on a licensing, and then right into the sunset, go somewhere warm and enjoy life. That's really my goal, is to slow down
Nothing wrong with that.
more. So
Nothing wrong with that, my friend. Not a damn thing wrong with that. And I appreciate everything you've done for the cannabis plant. I think I said that a little bit earlier, but I'd like to say it again with, all bit of seriousness. We got to appreciate the people like yourself that help us get to where we are today. A lot of risk has been taken by folks like yourself to keep genetics secure, to keep lines safe. And, again, thank you for everything you've done as far as, genetics, everything that you will do for the cannabis community in the future. It's very respectful, and I look forward to follow along, having you on one more, a few more times, and seeing where your cannabis journey goes from here on out.
yeah, no, I appreciate it as well, having a platform such as yours, and being able to get out maybe a different viewpoint, a different opinion. Sometimes people, again, we talked about it earlier, how someone could put an article out, how someone might hear you speaking, not hear the full section of the article, or hear your whole speech, and then define and or open opinion about you that is almost, half full. It's not fully there because they didn't fully get all the information. So again, having shows like this, and taking the time to really go through and hearing someone's personality, seeing someone's personality, and getting to see that, I think, is really good, not only for someone like me, but for some of your other viewers and some of your other individuals, your interviews that you're doing. It's important. So I appreciate it as well.
Well, I know I told you this the last time we spoke, but both things are true. That Zoom link that I sent you this evening and the last time as well always works. Though the last time we spoke, the after show was called The Wormhole, but we've since kind of changed things around a little bit, and now it's called The Weed Nerd World, the after party show. And then anytime you see that in the title, you're more than welcome to kind of come hang out, smoke, talk what we're out talking about. We love hearing other perspectives and talking with new folks that we don't usually get to talk to. So please keep it in mind. You know, it's always nice to talk for myself to talk to a legend like yourself, but not everybody gets that option. So when people pop into the weed nerd world like yourself, it tends to make a few days when they can ask questions that they wouldn't normally get to ask. With that being said, one last final thing I like to get from you is that silly thing I call the sound bite. Again, I think if you remember right, this is my version would be, hey, this is Eagle, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 643. It was 606 or 306 the last time we talked, but 643 this round. If you could give me a little sound bite for a future commercial for this episode, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, yes. Welcome and thank you for turning in to the Eagle Show. It's episode 643 live on a Sunday night, the 22nd of May. Stay tuned for all the exciting news and fun times. Talking shit with the Eagle live on Sunday.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time. And again, I look forward to speaking with you again very soon. And I wish you the best in New York. I hope that everything goes off without a hitch. And I hope all the dream that you've wrote down comes out just as well, if not better than when you wrote it down, my friend. With that being said, thank you so much again for your time. It's the most valuable thing that we have. I'm learning that to be true more and more every day. So thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you again. Thank you to the listeners, and I look forward to the next time. Blessings.
Blessings. Have a good night. For the rest of you guys, thank you for tuning in. If you're not going to follow over into the weed nerd world, then please do remember to do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. With that being said,